Quick update on finding Joachim Frank in the Epstein files. Again, here's the email that was sent to Epstein mentioning Joachim Frank. And again, for those of you who are new to this, Joachim Frank is the father of Ze Frank. Ze Frank is a content creator. He creates true facts videos on YouTube. He was also, I believe, the president or vice president, whatever, of BuzzFeed Motion Pictures. So he was pretty high up in the BuzzFeed hierarchy, which is a pretty well-known business media outlet. And I suspect he and his family are in a cult. So he, his father, his wife, sister, I think they're all in a cult together. And I think that they harm children. And then I find one of their names. Again, Ze Frank's father, Joachim Frank. Let's see, where is he? There he is, in the Epstein files. So the last video I made about this, I made it a few days ago. Go back, you can find it. It's titled Epstein Files, Joachim Frank, Ze Frank's father. I said I needed to look into Barbro Ehnbom some more because she's the one who wrote to Epstein about Joachim Frank and specifically mentioned him out of a group of Nobel laureates that she met. Yes, Joachim Frank won the Nobel Prize for, I forget if it was physics or chemistry. I think it was something like he studies physics primarily, but he won it the Nobel Prize in chemistry, or it's the other way around, something along those lines. But he's a Nobel laureate. All right, moving right along. This is Barbro Ehnbom. So you can see down here it says the Swedish-American woman Barbro Ehnbom has become renowned for her valuable networks and her successful business-generating activities. She shows up all over the Epstein files. Her name is mentioned over 2,300 times. 2,303 times, to be exact. I think if you put in her full name, it only comes up like 900 sometimes. But I guess some of the times that she's mentioned, they just say her first name. I don't know of anybody else with the first name Barbro, but maybe there's somebody else out there somewhere. Yeah, so she figures pretty frequently into the Epstein files and the whole Epstein conspiracy. Some things that I found about her are concerning. So, for example, right here, we have a post from this person, this lovely young lady here. I don't know, I won't even, the Kate Justice, I don't know how you pronounce it, but thank you for bringing attention to this, ma'am. So who were the BBB girls? That is what I wanted to know when I read this email. The answer is in another email from July 19th, 2017. A woman named Barbro Ehnbom sent Epstein banking information for a wire transfer. And then we have this. I can't really look at this article too much because you have to pay, for a subscription. But you can see down here, Jeffrey Epstein, the caption for this photo is Jeffrey Epstein met young Swedish women through the Barbro's Best and Brightest Networking Club. So that's who the BBB girls are. Barbro's Best and Brightest. I had thought that it was because there are 3 B's in her name, Barbro Ehnbom. But no, it stands for Barbro's Best and Brightest. So she created a network of young, pretty girls whom she would introduce to successful men like Epstein, right? And she's writing Epstein in this letter here about the BBB girls, one of them named Agnes. And in that same letter, and there's a BBB Christmas. So I guess she's getting together for Christmas with some of those girls. I don't know. In that same letter, she's mentioning Joachim Frank. So this chick, it seems like, what I'm gathering, and she sends him emails about Sophia, this girl named Sophia, pictures of young, pretty girls. It sounds to me, just what I'm gathering from what I'm seeing here, is she was basically a pimp for high-end prostitutes. Escorts, I guess, is what you call them when they're expensive. Whatever you want to call it. Like, she's pimping out young, pretty girls to big-name businessmen. She's introducing them and letting them take their pick, I guess. Yeah. And then she's chumming it up with Joachim Frank here. Something's a little bit off about this whole, she says she met him in Washington. Because, so this email was sent in 2017, November 2017. There is a little bit of a discrepancy there. I haven't looked into it too much. I'll look into it a bit more, but so far from what I've read, it seems like there wasn't really an official Nobel laureate gathering in Washington in 2017. There was like an unofficial meeting. I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see. I'll get back to you guys on that. And I'll also get back to you on, I've been putting a lot of the names of people that I know for sure are associated with Joachim Frank into the Epstein files search bar here and seeing who might pop up. But I'm wondering if Joachim is aware, maybe she doesn't, if Joachim's wife is aware that, like, you know, he's rubbing elbows with Barbro Ehnbom, who, again, she's coming off like a high-end pimp who pimps out young girls to successful, wealthy, rich men. How much money does a Nobel laureate make? I mean, he works at Columbia University. That's got to be a pretty nice paycheck. He's a professor there, right? And then I think that there's a small amount of money that Nobel laureates are given every year when they win that prize. It's like a pat on the back, like, good job. I don't know. I have to look into that some more. But I'm guessing he's worth a pretty good amount of money. And he's probably got some connections that Epstein might have been interested in. And again, I pointed out in the last video I made about this that Joachim Frank almost certainly knows this guy, Richard Axel, because they're both Nobel laureates and they're both professors at Columbia University. And Richard Axel also shows up a lot in the Epstein files because he was friends with Epstein. So Joachim here is rubbing elbows. He's working with and probably friends with Richard Axel. He's rubbing elbows with Miss Barbro here, the pimp. And he's showing up in the Epstein files. Like, he seems to be important enough that they went out of their way to mention him to Epstein. Talk about knowing the wrong people. Right? So I said previously, well, I think I was implying it, but I'll say it here. It's like, let's quote The Craft. Okay, Sarah in The Craft. That the original Craft, not that remake. It was not great. But one of the first things she says towards the beginning of the movie is, "You are who you hang with." Let that one sink in. You are who you hang with, dudes. So this guy is hanging out. Mr. Joachim here, Mr. Frank, is hanging out with some very unsavory people. And showing up in some places where I don't have any friends. I don't show up in the Epstein files. I don't have any friends who show up in the Epstein files. I haven't even looked, but I can guarantee you that I don't. I don't have any family in the Epstein files. Why? Because we don't go near people like Jeffrey Epstein. Because, well, first of all, most of the people in my family, I like to think, have as much good gut instinct and common sense as I do. And when someone feels like a creep, we just don't deal with them. But clearly, Mr. Joachim Frank here doesn't have the creep alert gut system going on. I don't know. So, and she must have, you have to think, she must have spoken with him quite a bit. Because, again, she met a group of Nobel Prize guys. She says, U.S. Nobel Prize guys, a group of them. And she only mentions Joachim Frank specifically. So, and she discerned that she figured out, he works at Columbia. He probably knows Richard Axel. She mentions all this. She's mentioning him alongside her BBB girls. Her, well, let's just call them what they are, prostitutes. High-end prostitutes. Escorts. Sorry, ladies. Escorts. Where is my head? Escorts. Wow. Wow. All right, I'm going to leave it here. Maybe I'll remake this with a little bit more information. It feels like I'm leaving something out that I wanted to say, but it's not coming to me. I'm just so blown back by all the nonsense. And again, let me remind you guys, I've been talking about Zay Frank and Joachim Frank and their whole family here being in a cult for a few years now. That I suspect they're in a cult because of various things that Zay Frank puts in his videos that are veiled references to occulted symbols, secret society type symbolism, stuff like that. And a lot of it, if you understand the philosophy behind it, has to do with worshiping evil and doing horrible things to children. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein was all about, right? All right, so happy Valentine's Day. I'm calling it there.